Hi, and welcome to the Knitpicks podcast. This is Stacey. I am the outreach director at Knitpicks, and I'm here with my friend Lee.
Hi, I'm Lee. I'm the Knitpicks books and patterns graphic designer at I was gonna say at Knitpicks. Knitpicks. How are you doing?
Oh, good. I've been sick, so I apologize if my voice, to our listeners, if my voice sounds a little strange. I haven't been actually sick. It's allergies because Pacific Northwest has decided to kill us all with pollen all in 1 week. So my voice is a little dry, so I'll be probably muting every once in a while just to sneeze or cough or whatever.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate that I don't get hit too hard by allergies, but I have been a bit sniffly, so I know it is hitting us all. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So one big news, we're on YouTube now. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah. With the silly photo shoot we did.
Yes.
We're trying to look like we're on NPR or something.
Yeah. My partner, I had told him that, but he didn't really think about it. And then he logged into YouTube or used my YouTube login on our TV. And I had just gone to bed and he came in. He's like, "Do you know you and Lee are on YouTube?" And I'm like, "Yep, told you that." And he's like, "It's a picture of you guys." I'm like, "Yep. We're not, it's just audio right now."
Yeah, it's just audio with the still photo as the visual.
But it was just really funny. So anyway, if you're hearing us from YouTube, welcome. We are here every other week. We'll take a break in a few weeks, but welcome.
And I think there's plans to put some of our back episodes up on the channel too. So if you subscribe, you'll if you're a relatively new listener, you can discover old episodes as they go up on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah. And definitely, like and subscribe and all of that on YouTube. We've been, Nick, our wonderful marketing manager, has a background in working on YouTube or working more with YouTube channels. He's been putting up a lot of really fun little shorts and updating the videos. So yeah.
Yeah. And updating old videos to actually link to our website and stuff like that. 'Cause a lot of our old content was kind of early days of YouTube, right?
Yeah. No, we are very thankful for Nick. So he's the one who got us on YouTube, got us our podcast on YouTube, and he's just been doing a great job. So do the whole like and subscribe, and what else do you do? Hit the notify bell to know when we update.
Oh, man. Yeah, I watch a lot of cooking and gardening YouTube, and they always got to tell you to hit that bell.
Yeah, there we go. Anyway, so what have you been up to, Lee?
Well, what I've been knitting is mostly something that we'll talk about a little bit later, just getting started. I've also been knitting a gift for someone who may or may not listen to this podcast, so probably don't want to say too much about that, but that's fun. I'm using Stroll Held Double, which is my favorite way to work with Stroll.
Yeah.
Soft and squishy.
You have a couple new patterns on the site?
I do. Yeah, we actually talked about them a couple weeks ago, and we said, they're going to be going up really soon. But then there were some hiccups along the way. So they are definitely officially up. No, it was a combination of factors. Yeah. They are officially up on the site now. So now I have a total of 4 different patterns from the older ones and the newer ones that are all designed with Felici in mind. One of them also has the static version. One of them also has a Stroll tonal or Stroll version for making your own stripes. So you can kind of make your own stripes with your own leftovers or with a multi-pack or mini pack, or you can use Felici, which will do the striping for you if you don't want to weave in any ends. So that hat is called the Free Play hat, and that one is either Felici held double or any fingering weight yarn held double, and it has to be held double. You can't just use a worsted weight to get the same gauge, because the stitch pattern actually works with those double strands. You're going to separate the double strands to create the cool kind of overlapping texture pattern where it has one color overlapping over the next color in the stripe pattern. I had a lot of fun designing specifically for Felici held double. So yeah, that was fun to design. And then there's a really fun, super easy headband pattern called the striation headband, which is also designed for Felici, but it could be any fingering weight yarn, really, but stripes are ideal. So you can either use just one single skein of Felici where you're pulling from each side and striping it with itself so that the colors are kind of going, ABC on one side and then CBA on the other side. So they're going to, it's striping with itself, but in opposite directions. Or you can do, my favorite sample is the other sample where it's just like leftover balls of all different colors of Felici. So it's like 1,000 different colors in one headband.
Yeah. I am excited for the headband.
Which I really like that look. Or you can do something in between where you just take 2 different colors and stripe them with each other. Whatever you want to do. Yeah. And it like ties, so you can tie it underneath your head or you can tie it on top of your head for different styles.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Yeah, I haven't really been working on too much either. Just the thing we're going to talk about in a little bit. I did sew this weekend. That was fun.
Yay!
I made one sort of a pseudo jumpsuit because I had enough fabric to make a pair of pants and a tank. So nice. I don't know if I'll actually do that and wear it, but as a tank,
I've done that a couple times. It's fun.
Yeah,
like mock jumpsuit.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll do it, but I'm very excited. But yeah, I just haven't been doing as much knitting because I've been, working on the project to come. I'm getting ready to go on vacation. When this comes out, I will be on vacation. So I will be on the Oregon coast at a beach house with my mom that we've done every year. And we just sit around and knit and read and walk on the beach, of course.
And escape the heat wave that we're going to be having here in Portland during that time.
And I'm very happy about that. So, but yeah, so that's been like consuming because we always cook a lot of really good food. So, and I'm making a pizza by using someone's recipe. So for pizza crust.
Oh yeah, we'll link to that in the show notes. I wrote a recipe for pizza, so that's on my Instagram. I can link to that. Were you inspired to sew this weekend because of Me Made May, or just randomly?
You know what? It was probably Me Made May. I have, because I do follow a lot of people who are doing that on Instagram. And and I just wanted some new clothes. I think it was like the weather changing. We've been the spring has just been really dark and gloomy, and it's suddenly starting to get nicer, which also means my allergies are going crazy. But it was like I wanted some new clothes, and I'm like, I had this really cute swirly fabric that I wanted to make some new clothes. So it was a combination. But I do love Me Made May. I think it is great. I know you're doing it this year. I haven't done it for a couple of years, but
yeah, I haven't really been sewing new clothes for actually almost 2 years now. I've barely sewn any. But I keep wanting to, and I keep just like not having time to prioritize it. So I was like, I'm gonna do Me Made May and wear all clothes that I already made years ago, mostly for the majority, and hopefully that will kind of like help me decide like what my wardrobe could use more of, like what I'd be excited to make, and then hopefully it'll inspire me to make some new things. Yeah. If it doesn't, that's okay too.
I kind of do Me Made May every day because I usually have something on that I've made myself.
Yeah. So do I, but actually like, in quotations, doing Me Made May, which means like taking a picture every day, helps me kind of think more about like wearing something different every day, and also like dipping a bit deeper into my wardrobe to like things I kind of forgot about, I haven't worn in a while.
Yeah. No, I know. I did that when I did that a couple of years ago. It was really great, and realizing I did have a lot. I had a lot of this because I have a tendency when it comes to sewing is I sew the same pattern over and over again. I have my TNT patterns that I do all the time, and I'm like, yeah, I have a lot of Fen dresses, or I have a lot of these things. So
we should say what that means. TNT, tried and true, I believe.
Yeah.
Tried and true patterns. So I think some people have those for knitting patterns too. Knitting pattern, you just kind of knit over and over. Yeah. I have those for sewing too, for sure. Especially with like pants. Like it's hard to find pants that are really comfortable and fit really well, and also like aren't too hard to make. So I have one particular pants pattern I just keep making over and over and over.
Yep. I've been doing that for I keep making the same pants over and over again too, but I love them, and I do different fabrics, so they're different.
Yeah,
anyway,
they'll look different. Exactly. Yeah.
So I guess we can start talking about our announcement that we're very excited about.
Yeah.
We have a new collection out today. It is Good Vibes and Groovy Lines. And I love saying it like that. We're going to talk about it more. We're going to talk about the collection more as a whole in our next segment, because we're going to have Hillary Elliott, who is the creative director, is going to join us, and we're going to talk all about how we came up with this collection. But there is one very special pattern in there that I think we all fell in love with when we first chose these patterns, and that is the Ice Fire Wrap by Donielle Showvay. And it is gorgeous. And we are going to be starting a knit along.
Yeah, I hope you'll join us. It's designed for chroma worsted in 2 colors. So you can get really different looks depending on what 2 colors you choose. And the pattern's called Ice Fire Wrap because she was inspired by an icy colorway and a fiery colorway, striped back and forth with each other, which you can just copy if you love.
Yeah.
Or I'm choosing kind of a different, like, high contrast, like greens and yellows striped with like pinks and oranges and reds kind of. You can also, of course, choose like a much lower contrast or like a neutral. And some people are using like a neutral with 1 chroma. So it's just one chroma color instead of 2.
I love it. I love using when you stripe 2 very different colors of chroma together. I love the way it looks. Even if they look like they would not even go together in separate, there's a couple of patterns that we have that are like that, and I really love it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm using more of the tonal, which I realized after I started that I'm using more of the tonal colors of 2 of the tonal colors of chroma. I'm using Go-Go Boots and Narwhal for mine. I didn't really think about it when I did it. I was like, I love these 2 colors. But so it's definitely a different look than even the sample or even the version that Donielle made. So, and then yours are much more high contrast, right? You've got lots of different colors in yours.
And I'm doing chroma twist too.
Oh, yeah.
So I have that like kind of twisty textural effect. So yeah, my green yellow is also the Go-Go Boots, and then my other color is Tiki, which is like a pink orange, like mainly pinks and oranges, kind of sunsetty colorway. So at some points when the orange gets more yellow and then the Go-Go Boots gets yellow, then they're very low contrast at some points where they're striping with each other, and then sometimes they get very high contrast, which is fun to have that variation.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited about the creativity of our staff. There is like, I want to say like 10 people doing this on the staff at least.
That's what it feels like. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like everyone. I was just like, I mean, like I said, when this submission came across our desk, it was like one of the first ones we picked for our stripes collection, which I'll go into more detail again in the next segment. But, we were all in love with it. And then when I got the sample back, or when I saw pictures of the sample even from my sample knitter, I was like, oh, I really think this is going to be a really fun project. I think this is going to be wonderful because it looks so gorgeous. And then I think this is a perfect one. It's definitely great for beginners. If you want to kind of expand.
Adventurous beginners, I would say, if you want to add to your skill set.
So I'd say 95% of this pattern is garter stitch, just knit. There are short rows in it, which are great. It's a great way to learn short rows. They're only every 4 rows you're doing a couple short row things.
Like every 6 rows.
Every 6. Yeah. Okay.
So you're striping back and forth between the 2 colors the whole time, and you basically do 1 stripe of one color, 1 stripe of the other color, and then a stripe that has the short row bubbles in it. So then it's like A, B, and then A has the short row bubble, and then B has the short row bubble. So that way the short row bubbles are switching between the 2 colors, which makes another cool effect with how because the short rows are what's creating the pattern. It's these little, she calls them flames. So it's a flame pattern that's with the ice fire theme. So it's these little flames where you're just going, it's 12 stitches wide. So you don't have to count very many. You're just wrap and turning a few times, just back and forth to just make this like bubble of color. So it's a very easy way to learn short rows because you're going to be wrap and turning a lot. So you get used to it and it becomes easier and easier. It's something that's easy in the first place, but it might be intimidating with like shaping where you think, oh, if you do it wrong, the shape's going to be wrong or something, or you have to really keep track with a lot of stitches. But in this case, like it's only 12 stitches. It's really easy to see. It's easy to count. If you do it wrong, it's easy to take out and redo again, if on a single row. Yeah, it's a really great way to just kind of get used to short rows and become comfortable with them. And then when another pattern comes along, you'll be like, yeah, I got this. I know short rows.
Yeah, we taught one of our coworkers, Carlene, how to do short rows for this project specifically. So, and then there's different ways you can do short rows on this. The pattern does wrap and turn, and you're picking up the wraps. But I do know that Andi is working on this project as well. Andi, if you want to jump in, say what yarn you're using and then what you're doing with the short rows.
So I'm using Capra DK for mine, which is going to make it slightly narrower, more like a scarf. I personally would rather have it like striped with solid colors. So that's part of how I chose my yarn, which makes mine look very different from the original pattern sample, but it's still gorgeous. Like, we did get a little bit of a head start in the office on this knit along so that we'll be able to like show what different yarn subs look like. And I'm very excited for everyone to see them because they all look so good.
Definitely.
But what Stacey really wants me to talk about is how I'm doing my short rows. Personally, with garter stitch, I think garter stitch short wrap and turn short rows look tidier when you don't pick up the wraps. So I'm not doing that, and it makes it even easier to knit because, like, if you leave your wraps without picking them up, they do blend into the ridges of the garter stitch fabric, but not so much that you can't sort of like squint in and see them if you want to count to make sure you've done your short rows right. I was also helping another coworker who's new to short rows, and I found it a little easier to have those wraps there for reference when I was teaching her what to do because they don't quite get hidden to the back. So when you're looking at the front, you can like pull your knitting apart a little bit and see those wrap stitches, but it still blends in once you have the overall piece sort of further along.
Yeah. And to do that, it's technically a modification because the pattern does tell you specifically to pick up the wrap. So to do that modification, all you would do is knit the stitch normally and just not pick up the wrap, which is easier. So it's a very easy modification to make.
And then you're doing something different then too, right, Lee?
I am. I'm doing German short rows just because I like German short rows. I like German short rows on garter stitch because you don't have to worry about the purls, which get like a little bit weird when you're doing German short rows on stockinette because it's all knit. And, I won't get into detail about if you have never done German short rows before, no need to like learn them for the first time with this project. But if you have done them before and you like them and you like using them instead, that's what I'm doing. But I'm a lot of like German short row tutorials or the way when patterns are written with German short rows, it'll tell you to like knit X number, turn, make the double stitch. But because this pattern is written for wrap and turns, I'm like knitting one extra. So the double stitch in my German short row is what would be the wrapped stitch and the way the pattern is written. So basically if it says, knit 11, wrap and turn, then I'm knitting 12 and then turning and making a double stitch. So that way, like I said, my double stitch is just kind of replacing the wrap stitch the way the pattern's written. So that's all easy modification if you are used to that technique, if you already know it.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm just doing what the pattern says, so I'm no modifications there. I like picking up the wraps. I do see Andy's point, but I don't know. I just like them. So, I'm really excited. So I hope you will join us. This is a very large wrap. I cannot wait to just when it comes to winter, I'll get cozy in it. But
a couple other modifications we wanted to talk about though are
that's what I was saying.
Yeah. Okay.
I was trying.
It sounded like you're, I don't know. I was just very excited to tell people not to be scared of the stranded color work that you'll see in the pattern, because it is not required. The pattern is written for stranded color work for a 1x1 rib to 2-color stranded 1x1 rib for the edges for the beginning and end, which looks cool. And if you want to do it, totally do it. I think most of us in the office are doing it. Yeah, it was actually my first time doing it too. If you're a beginner knitter or any level of knitter at all who doesn't like stranded color work, but you do like short rows and you like the project, totally fine to skip those. You can totally just do, 1x1 rib, normally solid color, or do like a striped garter, just like plain, like whatever you want. You can modify that edge however you think would be cool for your project, because it's your project. So the cool, awesome part of this pattern is the body of it. The short row garter stitch pattern. So whatever you do on the edge is just going to be a little extra detail that you can make your own if you choose to. Yeah. So we wanted to make sure you know that. Don't be scared off by that beginning.
Oh yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely a couple of ours first time doing it. I remember Regan had it wrapped. I remember Regan showing me, and he's like, "I think I'm doing this wrong," and I'm like, "Well, I don't know enough about it to tell you what's wrong with it," but we figured it out in the end. And he restarted. He restarted like 3 times because Regan is the fastest knitter alive. Yeah, I'm sorry.
He was still ahead of all of us, even though he restarted 3 times.
I don't even want to know when I go into the office how far he is. But yes, I forgot about that technique. But what I also was going to say, this is a great piece to customize to how you want to wear it. You heard earlier that Andi is making hers more narrow. I think you could even, I don't think Andi is doing this, but you could even cut the rows in half and just do one side of the short rows, and make a scarf with it.
Yeah, you could totally do that.
I am totally making a wrap, so.
The stitch pattern is both charted and written. So if you want to kind of modify, add repeats, subtract repeats, it would be easy to look at it visually and kind of envision how you'd want to do that. Because it is 2 repeats. So it's like 2 bubbles zigzagging back and forth, like zigzagging from the beginning of the row to the end of the row, back to the beginning. Yeah.
But you're doing something. I'm making the big wrap. I cannot wait to curl up in it when it comes to wintertime. But I do know you're doing something very special.
I am. I have a lot of wraps and blankets in my house, so I decided I'd rather have a sweater. So I'm turning the pattern into a sweater. The width of it is pretty close to the width that I would want for a sweater. I might want it to be a little bit wider. And if I do, I'm going to knit the front and back pieces and then block them and see how they block out. But if I decide I want it a little bit longer, then when I seam the sides, I'm going to just add a panel between the front and back, to widen. So not sure yet if I'm going to do that. But I'm basically starting from the bottom up and knitting the pattern exactly how it's written with nothing special. From the bottom of the sweater up to where I want the shoulders to be. And I'm doing that twice, once for the front and once for the back. And then I'm going to decide at that point if I want to do some short row shoulder shaping, because I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do the neckline, if I want to do like some neckline shaping. So I'll kind of cross that bridge when I come to it. And then I'm going to seam the sides and then just make drop shoulder sleeves. It'll be just a boxy, it'll be basically like a square almost, front and back, and then just the sleeves off the square sides, and it'll be a basic boxy drop shoulder situation. I think it's gonna work out.
I think that sounds amazing. Now I kind of want to do that, but no, I don't. No, I want my big wrap. I want my big giant wrap to wrap up in, even though I also have a lot of blankets and wraps around, but no matter. I mean, I'm going to do this.
You can always use more. I have plans for more. I saw this and I kind of like envisioned it as a sweater, so decided to go for it.
Yeah, that's actually what got you into it, because I remember you were not going to do it at first. We pressured you.
I'm not a big fan of knitting giant rectangles, like no matter how cool they are. Like I want something to change. I want like most of the wraps that I've made have been more of like a shape, not like a plain rectangle. Because I just like get bored and put it down halfway and never pick it back up again. So yeah. That's just my style.
Well, dear listeners, if you want to join us, we will encourage you to not put down the pattern.
Yeah, no, we're all doing it together, so we'll encourage each other. And June 1st is going to be the official start date for you. And like we've been talking about, we've already started a little bit ahead of time just so we can kind of let you know what's coming and give you sneak peeks and show you the different yarns and stuff. So definitely check our Instagram for some looks at some of the different yarns as you're picking out your yarns, but then get everything ready to cast on June 1st.
Yeah, I was gonna. We kind of shared a couple of the yarns that people have used, but I'm using the regular chroma, as there are a couple other people. I'm using 2 different colors of chroma, but 2 of the multicolors. But a couple of people are using 1 solid chroma and 1 multichroma. But you could just go with 2 solid chromas, like the bear and the black. That would make a really cool black and white. Oh, that looks so good. And there are people using chroma twist, which you are.
Yep.
A couple people actually are. And then Capra that Andy's using, Wonderfluff, Swish. We mentioned Regan earlier. He's using like 5 or 6 colors of Swish.
Oh, wow.
So I think he's doing Wool of the Andes.
Oh, did he change it? Oh,
he's changed his yarn so many times.
Okay. Well, Wool of the Andes then. Well, anyway, he uses multiple colors of whatever worsted weight yarn he's using. So nice. You'll just have to check our socials to see everyone's. We'll probably be posting it within the next week or so, showing our colors. So join us.
Yeah.
And next up, as I mentioned earlier, we have our wonderful coworker, Hillary Elliott, the creative director. She's going to join us for a chat about the collections and all together, but definitely the Good Vibes and Groovy Lines. So stay tuned.
Cast on with Brava Recycle. This DK weight yarn is made with acrylic that normally would be considered waste, but was sorted and respun to make gorgeous heathers. It's so soft that we were inspired to name the colors after staff pets.
Find it on knitpicks.com and be sure to read the color descriptions to learn more about each color's namesake.
Hey, we're back, and me and Stacey are back here today with Hillary, our creative director here at Knitpicks. I will let her talk about what she does exactly, what that means, what that entails, and her journey to how she got there. So, hi, Hillary. It's so good to have you on the podcast today.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Hillary!
Well, I started at the company about 6 years ago, and our sister company, which was called Artist Club, which is no longer, but it was a tool painting company. So I started as a graphic designer for that brand. And then I transferred over for knitpicks and was the catalog designer for many years. And a little bit ago, I moved into the creative director position, which pretty much means I hang out with all the graphic designers and keep morale up and help style photo shoots.
And still do the catalog too.
Still do the catalog.
Yeah. Like, just like that and more. Yeah.
Yes, and more.
Yeah. Basically anything creative, like visually creative that comes out of the company is from Hillary's brain. Or at least Hillary has a portion of it, right?
A little portion of it, maybe. But...
You're too modest. She comes up with these brilliant ideas for the catalog and everything. I love it. So
yeah, styles all the photo shoots. So yeah. So I personally am super happy to have you in your position as the book designer, because I do all the graphic design. I do all the fine tuning and the book layout, the nerdy typography stuff, but you do all the photo styling, which is amazing, and you're so good at it, and I am not good at that side of things. So I love taking your photos that you style and that John shoots and using them in the books that I lay out. So yeah, everything we do here at knitpicks is a team effort for sure.
It's definitely fun to see how everyone touches a little part of the process and then seeing the end result.
So, Hillary, what did you do before you came to the company? I know you did a lot of fun stuff before that.
Yeah, so I went to college. I went to the Academy of Art University in San Francisco. And after I graduated, I knew I did not want to live in San Francisco anymore. And so I kind of applied for jobs all over California. And I was very lucky to get a job in Orange County for an arts and crafts magazine. And I loved working in that space, in that industry. And so I ended up moving up to the Portland area. I worked in a bunch of different industries. I worked for a marketing agency, but I was very happy to land back in the kind of arts and crafting space with knitpicks.
Nice.
I feel like it's very inspiring and like feel good to put inspiration out for other crafters.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you craft too. Did you knit or crochet before you came to KP, or did you do other yarn crafts?
I did a little bit. I had dabbled in it. Like I just bought yarn at like a big box store, and I had my mother-in-law teach me. I think I made like one crochet project and one knit project before I actually started at knitpicks. But it's like you catch the bug with all of the nice patterns and yarn around you, so you end up picking up needles and hooks at some point.
Yeah. And you also dabble in other arts and crafts stuff too. I mean, obviously graphic arts, but you do pottery, ceramics. I don't know if those are the same thing or if those are different things that I said.
Think they're the same. I'm self-taught, so I've never actually taken a class. But in the pandemic, I was bored / needed things to do. And so I just bought a wheel on a whim and was given a kiln and kind of set up a little makeshift studio at my house. And it's been really fun making something with my hands that's like physical. I feel like a lot of graphic design is on a screen, but I've enjoyed making things with my hands again.
Nice. That's so cool.
Yeah. And you sell them at like at farmers markets and things like that?
I did. I actually have one coming up in a few weeks for like a Mother's Day type thing. So I'm in full crafting mode at the moment.
Nice.
And I know you sew clothes sometimes too, because sometimes you wear handmade clothes in the office like a lot of us do, and it's awesome.
Yes. I used to do it a lot more before I had my son. I had more space and more time, but I hope to pick it back up soon when we have a little bit more space.
Cool. Well, I'm so glad you found your way into a creative director position in the crafts industry, because I think it's a special place to do graphic design. Because like you said, with the whole computer, graphic design is on computer, but then when you're surrounded by crafts and you are so great at styling for it and everything, and the catalog, showing everything off that we do, it seems like a perfect fit.
Thank you. Yeah. I feel like I found a nice little home here.
It's a love fest here.
We love everyone.
So the reason we brought you on, the reason we brought you on is to chat with you on the podcast. But one of the things we wanted to kind of focus on talking about while you're here with us is kind of the whole process of creating a collection, because like the three of us here, Hillary, Stacey, and me, are the three people who do the most with the collections. Obviously, like we said, team effort. There's also photographers and lots of other stuff that happens. But the three of us, that's like our main part of our jobs. So we thought we could kind of go through a lot of what goes into making a collection behind the scenes, like before it ever goes into the book layout, kind of. So yeah, all that styling, photo type stuff, and just like conception from the very, very first time it's thought of. So Stacey, do you want to start with the whole like conception part of it?
Sure. So I'll use the example of, we have a new collection that came out today when this episode drops. It is called Good Vibes and Groovy Lines. And it was when I had an idea for pretty early on. So to back up a little bit, when we are determining collections I usually do this at about a year in advance is when I start doing initial planning. I do kind of like half the year in one go and then the other half of the year so we can take in like anything like what sales are like or how one collection did over another. So about January of 2022, we kind of were starting to figure out what we wanted to do for the first half of 2023. And I kind of had an idea of a couple collections that we wanted to do. We definitely want to do a cable collection. We always do a cable collection. Want to do a sock collection. But for May, we were all kind of trying to figure out something really fun. And actually, I believe it was Lee who came up with the idea of stripes, or at least she was definitely a big proponent of it. So that's the initial part of starting the collection. It's definitely a lot of crowdsourcing. But then I kind of take that idea and then I just kind of play with, like on Pinterest or like Google Images, kind of playing with looking at what kind of collection we want to do. So for stripes, I'm looking at different stripes. I'm looking at a lot of trend boards. Hillary and I tend to use like the very high fashion trend boards a lot. Not that we use them because we are not a high fashion place, but kind of get some inspiration for styles. And you see a lot of stripes in the, like for the trend boards for 2023, you saw stripes and stuff. So I'm like, let's do stripes, but let's not do just horizontal stripes. Let's play with it. Let's do, different directions, different styles, waves, all sorts of fun things. So that's how the stripe collections came up. And I remember we decided we were going to do 3 small ebooks to kind of play with it. One was always going to be rainbow, which ended up being coloring outside the line. And then one I really wanted to do, I was inspired by some like really vintagey color palettes. And I'm like, ooh, let's do like a 70s collection, like a 70s style, mid-century modern type collection. So when I did the mood board for the stripe collection, I put in all of these images. I kind of list out what we're looking for. And then these mood boards go to designers. So after it goes out to the designers, they submit all their ideas. We might be able to show like an example of a submitted idea as well. So after all the designs come in, all the submissions from the designers, we all gather in a room and we pick patterns. It's a really fun thing. I'm glad during the pandemic, it was still fun, but it's definitely having the physical papers in our hand to kind of compare, slot them out. And then we pick out, in this case, 15 patterns that we really liked. And then it's my job to pick out which collection they're going to go in. So we do, the designer goes off and writes their patterns. And then I figure out, well, these are the 3 we're going to use for this collection. These are the 5. These are the 5 that all kind of go together. So let's make this a vintagey collection. And that's how Good Vibes turned out. I just really like saying it like that. It's really a fun it's a really fun title. So yeah, and then we have one other one that will be coming out in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that.
And sometimes in those submission meetings, when we're all having to pair it, it's always really hard, obviously. We have like 100 submissions. We have to pick like 15 or 12, and it's difficult. But sometimes we'll be like, oh, we love this pattern, but it's not quite a fit for this collection. Let's put it aside or reach out to the designer about doing an IDP, or maybe it'll fit with this other collection in the future. So that's fun that it makes it a little less hard to have to cut a bunch to be like, okay, this pattern can still exist, just not like in this collection. Yeah. Yeah.
And I try to encourage people especially when I have to turn them down, I always try to, let them know, like, it's not your pattern that was bad. It was just, we had these other ones. Mm-hmm. So it's tough, but it's really fun.
I feel like we should say for any designers listening, if you want a little insight, I will say, do a good blocked swatch, because that makes a big difference.
In a neutral, solid color.
Or and a type of yarn that's similar to the type of yarn you're proposing. It doesn't have to be the same yarn, the same color, but just like we want to see the stitch pattern and we want to see it looking good. And so, block it, photograph it nicely. And also the sketch, like, it doesn't have to be like a good sketch, but like some kind of sketch so that we can know what it is that we are talking about. These things help a lot. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Those actually help more. Like I do ask for like clear like description of it, and those are helpful, but a lot of the times we are doing it a lot visually of like this cable pattern, this stripe pattern, this lace pattern. We can see it on the page. We're looking at
so many at the same time, and there's so many of us, and we're passing them around. So really, like, the visuals are the thing that matters more than anything else.
Yeah. So, in fact, and if you need help with taking good photos, we have a photo guide that our dear Regan put together that can help you if you need to photograph something. It's for the IDP designers for photographing their patterns, but it also is really helpful with photographing just a swatch or photographing anything. It's a great, we'll link that in the show notes as well if you haven't seen it, because it's a really, really good one. So
nice.
So yeah, so patterns go back to the designer, they write them, and then I get to do the fun thing of color selection. And again, this is when I kind of slot them like this is going to be in the 70s collection. We kept calling it that's like kind of our working title, the 70s collection. So I slotted the 5 patterns that are in it, and then I pick colors. And I don't try to do like complete matches, but I also want them to be like an overall theme. And a lot of the times I'll just grab an image from the internet of just like, this is kind of the vibe I'm going for, just so, and it kind of constrains me when I'm picking colors. Also, I would just make everything like green or something and gold or, my favorite colors. So I try to do around, and I also try to take into account of what yarns and colors we have coming out. So I know what we should be focusing on. Like this yarn, it's got new colors coming out, so we should like see if we can incorporate the new colors or at least use it so for marketing we can actually use the pattern of like, there's new Brava colors, so we can show this of like, look at this in this Brava. So
I think it's like the first time you're like telling the story too of the collection. When you start putting all the colors together, it kind of sets like the look and feel and ties back to like your original idea. I do think that's like the first time we see like the collection really start coming together and be really cohesive.
Yeah. And then at that point, I just kind of work with, the samples are getting knit, they're coming in. And then I work with Hillary and that's when I kind of put together like a definite, like, this is my vision. This is what I think I'd love the photo shoot to look like. Hillary, make it happen for me. And she does. It's so great.
I think you can definitely tell the collections, especially like the Good Vibes collection that's coming out. Really, all of the Stripe collections had a really strong point of view and a strong story that you were trying to tell. So that makes it really easy to kind of carry that through, like some of the visual elements of the collection.
Yeah. Yep. So I've been trying to do that more and more lately. Like, I don't know, I've been feeling these are my babies. So I'm like, this is what I want. I think it kind of started, especially last year when it came to the transitions book. That was when I had a definite vision of trains. I don't know. I said trains. Yeah. And then Hillary's like, oh, let's do this and this and this and this. And I'm like, perfect. Okay.
Yeah. And when I think about a collection kind of telling a story, that exact collection is where my mind went to, because it feels like it's a movie shoot or something. Like it's there's like a story happening in that shoot. Yeah.
I had just started watching Downton Abbey. So they had that train, like the opening credits. And I was like, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, Stacey.
Yeah. So after that is when I start working with Hillary, and then we figure out like locations and models. And do you want to talk a little bit about like how you work with that, Hillary?
Sure. So usually we pick a location first. The weather's a little dicey sometimes of year in the Pacific Northwest. And so kind of spring and summer months, we tried to shoot outside as much as possible to maximize the beautiful landscape. But it was still kind of cold and dreary for this shoot. So we found a very cool 70s house it's a pretty well-known architect in the Portland area built it, and it's the second owner. And they kept it all original. The wallpaper in the bathroom was like gold and beautiful.
I know, we
and amazing.
so wanted to get photographs of that. That was such an amazing house.
Yeah.
I loved everything.
And so it fit perfectly for this collection, we thought. And then we work with a model agency. We put a call out for them. We kind of give them the measurements of the model we need, maybe like an age range if we're thinking of it, and usually the theme of the shoot, because that kind of helps the agent pull together options for us. And I think the model we got was lovely. Her name was Sean, an amazing model. She showed off the garment so well.
Yeah, I remember I think to the modeling agency, you said like retro collection, I think, or retro vibes or something.
Yes.
And all the ones they sent were all beautiful, of course, they're models, but Sean just stood out so much. She just was like, yes, that's perfect.
Yes.
Please, can we have her, Hillary? And you made it happen.
I feel like it's kismet when the location is available that day, the model's available that day, the weather cooperates. We had beautiful light, so it was meant to be.
Yeah, it really was a perfect shoot. Yeah.
And then, so what else do you do at the photo shoots then, Hillary, once we're there?
So once we have it scheduled and we go over all of the garments, or if it's home decor, anything we're shooting, and then I go source the wardrobe or any props that we need, make sure they're steamed and everything looks nice and tidy. And then, the day of the shoot, just kind of have it all set up, ready for the model to hop in to all of the cute outfits.
Yeah, we're not a high fashion place. We do not have our own wardrobe and makeup department.
Yes, we do have a small wardrobe of basics, but usually for things like this, you need something a little more specialized, and so we go out and source all of the stuff for that.
Yeah, which sourcing sounds much cooler than going to Target and see if we can find some stuff that fits. But this one was a really fun one. We got some really fun pieces, and those are always difficult too. I mean, it's the same thing with the samples and the model, because we're obviously getting the model like way after the samples are done, and hoping that they will fit. And because sometimes the models come in or show up and they're much smaller, or usually smaller, but sometimes larger than what we were expecting for these pieces. So we kind of have to make it work.
Yeah,
but
and everyone's body shape's so different. And so, maybe their shoulders are a little broader, but we have some little tricks like pinning things a certain way that, can make them fit a little more realistically on the model's body shape, to where if you knit the pattern, it would fit you that way. So we never want to pin it to where it's tighter, but that doesn't really isn't a realistic depiction of what the pattern would be if you knit it. So we never want to kind of like blur those lines,
Yeah, definitely. So then the day of the photo shoot, usually it's our photographer, John, Hillary, me, Chase, who we love, who does our podcast producing or editing, but he also does a lot of the videos that you see like on our social media. We all just tromp in and hope the model doesn't get lost, which does happen. I think this happened to her.
It has happened.
And then we just usually John will have a good idea of like the different places he wants to shoot. Hillary, you have good ideas of what you want to shoot. I really love this time was getting the props, and you were really good at picking out the props to use. The Yahtzee dice, that was, I was just remembering that.
The house was perfect. It had like authentic Yahtzee, like a Yahtzee set, and they had like glassware from the era of the house. They had amazing props that we were able to just pull from the shelves.
Yeah.
Nice.
But we often will bring our own props too if we're going someplace at different places. So, yeah. And then we do the shoot. And anything you want to add there, Hillary?
We usually plan for like shoot times. We can usually get it done in about a half day, like 3-4 hours. We plan about 20 minutes per garment to try to estimate how much time it takes. If we're shooting outside, sometimes it takes a little longer because we have to walk farther between each shot. In houses, it's nice because you can kind of just like pivot to the kitchen, pivot to the living room, and then you don't have to walk as far, and lug all of the clothes and garments around. So, yeah.
Yeah, and outdoor shoots, like you had mentioned earlier, in the Pacific Northwest, sometimes we have to wait for the rain to stop or the light to change.
Definitely. And depending on the time of year, either it's very cold and we hand the model a tiny lacy shawl to put on, or it's full summer and we shoot very early in the morning because otherwise it's like 90 degrees and they should be in a wool sweater. So we kind of have to move our schedule around depending on the weather and the light.
Yeah, I remember one of the shoots I was on where we were shooting in it was had been a heat wave, and I'm like, to the poor model, I'm like, sorry, this wool sweater, I've got to have you put it there. The models are always professional though, so they're great.
And somehow they never look like they're sweating. If I were doing that, I'd be like red-faced, sweaty.
Yeah.
Like my hair would be all messed up and frizzy. So they always look lovely still.
Yeah, one of the, because we, since we're in the Portland area, Nike is a big, it uses a lot of the same models as we do. And they tell us stories of having to wear a bathing suit in freezing temperatures and try not to look cold.
I know. Very talented, those models.
Yeah. Anyway, so after we do that, then it heads over pretty much to Lee. I mean, I'm still working in the background, but for what you see it's Lee time. So
yeah,
Lee,
I would have also been working in the background a bit before this because I style edit all the patterns to get them into our style so they all match each other in a cohesive book. Things are written using the same language. That's what I mean by style, like the language and the abbreviations and capitalization and all that kind of stuff. So I will have done that by now, and then once that's done and tech edit is done and the photos are done, I'm doing the charts and schematics, and usually while they're being tech edited, a lot of the time that overlaps with charts and schematics. I do all those so they all match in our style. And then I have everything. Once I have everything, I put it all in the book. So I have an InDesign template that I use for all the books, but I can adjust a little bit for each book to make them a little bit unique. And I drop everything in there and lay it all out and insert all the photos. And then the fun part, the cover, and we call it logo, but it's the title typography, is a little bit more teamwork. So what we'll do is once we have all the photos, we'll do a group task with everyone on the yarn team where we'll put the photos in and show them, hey, this is the collection we're working on. This is what it looks like. It's vibe, it's style. There's the kind of patterns. What's a name idea? And then people can brainstorm name ideas. And we find that brainstorming together in a group like that can come up with a lot better name ideas than just one person on their own. So that's really fun. This one that we're talking about, Good Vibes and Groovy Lines, I believe was thought up by Isabel, our social media expert.
Yeah, and we saw that and we're like, great. Yes, that is perfect.
There was actually very little brainstorming because that was maybe the first comment was Isabel's, and all of us were just like, yes, that, perfect. Yeah. You know what? I think Isabel came up with coloring outside the lines too.
Oh, I think you're right.
Genius.
She's a wordsmith, that one.
All right. She needs to be social media and naming expert. That's her job title. So then once we have a name, I do the logo, the title, and I have fun with that. And then Hillary always helps with that as a creative director. So we'll kind of teamwork back and forth on that, figure out color palette, and then we'll pick out a photo to be the cover photo. And that'll kind of happen around the same time that we're doing the logo because we'll kind of want to match the photo to the logo and put that together. So
how do you come up with the logos? I've always wondered.
A lot of Adobe fonts, playing with fonts. I mean, most of it's there. So if you're a graphic designer listening to this, it's not a logo. It's just a typography. But we do internally we call them logos because it's shorthand. So I'll kind of enter the title into Adobe Fonts and just look at fonts and filter by the kind of vibe I'm looking for. Obviously, the 70s one was fun because I got to look for vintagey type fonts. And I'll do like an Illustrator canvas of just like anywhere from like 3 to 12 different ideas, depending on how kind of clear of a vision I have. Sometimes I'll go in like multiple different directions. Like, here's if we want more classy, here's if we want more fun. Like, I don't know. Some collections have like less of a super precise, specific vibe. Like they kind of go in a few different directions. And then once we kind of narrow it down and pick out a font, pick out like is it going to be stacked or in one line, or, usually most of our collections have a title and a subtitle. The Stripe trio of collections that does not have subtitles because we decided to do longer titles and skip the subtitles. But usually, you have to design it with the title, the subtitle, and by knitpicks all kind of together in a block, because then I designed that as like an element that can be then dropped into catalogs, emails, website, graphics, all over the place. So it gets used by the whole team. So I'll usually design it in like a plain black version, which can also be plain white version, and then like a couple different colored versions too, so they can be used different ways on different places. That's it. Yes, some are just like a font. Some have like more going on, like more design elements. Yeah.
I just always like watching the two of you work when you're talking about the logo and like and it's like things I don't even notice. So it's like, can you make the A look this style, or can you do the ampersand this style? I'm like, I think it's cute, but you guys know because you guys are graphic designers. So
yeah, and typography is definitely one of my favorite kinds of graphic design to do. So that's one of my favorite parts of the process always. And then picking out a photo and making it all work together. And, with the Stripe, I'm assuming with all three of these Stripe books, even though we haven't done the third one yet, we're doing a little bit more like fun stripey graphic design elements on the cover. So it's not like just a photo and the logo. There's like extra stuff going on, which is really fun. Yeah,
you've done tons of extra stuff. You've done like coloring pages. You've done like all sorts of fun stuff. You graphic designers just amaze me.
Well, Lee's really good at kind of taking like the story that Stacey started with, like the idea of the collection, and then she looks at the photos, and then she definitely picks out fonts and typography that tell that story too. So I feel like it just is like a little thread that kind of goes through the whole collection. And I think
it weaves through, if you will.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Knits and pearls through it.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Hillary. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, I just think those are the collections I definitely love. I love all of them, but the ones that like I'm super proud of and excited to kind of put out into the knitting world are the ones that have that like storytelling throughout all of it. I feel like they really shine through.
Me too. So after that, it goes, we do a bunch of proofing within the team of like going over it. The designers are taking a look at the single patterns. I have my wonderful sample knitter, Barbara, kind of looks at it from like a neutral point of view, kind of like how a knitter would look at it, just to get a better idea of like what could be clearer, because sometimes especially Lee and I have been staring at these patterns, and the designer has been staring at these patterns for so long that we just automatically fill in where something might be missing that Barbara might pick up on. So yeah. And then it goes out to the world. I mean, some of them are a little bit different. If we do a printed book, this is a different kind of situation, but I think we just kind of wanted to give an overview.
And one minor or extra thing is Andi writes the back cover copy if it is a printed book, and if it's an ebook, there is no back cover, but we still like kind of call it the back cover copy because it's with a web copy, catalog copy. And then we just started doing a brand new thing with the current books that we're doing a little blurb about each yarn that got chosen for the book, which Andi is writing. And it'll be on the last page where we say all the yarns that were featured in this collection, which we always have. But now we're putting a little blurb under each yarn about like why it was a good fit for this particular pattern or for this particular collection, or why we chose that yarn, because we have so many yarns and sometimes it seems kind of random what yarns are in a collection, but it's like they're all chosen for a specific reason to like best fit the pattern. So
yes,
I think that's a fun thing that we just started doing.
And then it makes its way to the website and to you, everybody out there in the audience. I think that was fun. I love talking about, obviously I love talking about my collections, our collections, I should say. They're not just mine, but they feel very precious to me, especially certain ones that I really love, like this one and Coloring Outside the Line. Unparalleled was another one that I really loved. And Transitions, of course, that I mentioned earlier. So, and it's all of us working together. So, well.
Well, thanks for having me on. I could talk about graphic design stuff all day.
Well, thank you for coming on. I think it's fun to see glimpses of other parts of the company, what goes on behind the scenes and everything. And super thankful to have you on the bookmaking team.
Right back at you, friends.
All right. Thanks, Hillary.
Bye.
This podcast was originally created by Kelly Petkin.
It is produced and hosted by me, Lee Meredith, and Stacey Winklepleck.
Produced by Andi Satterland with additional production and editing by Chase Ryan.
Special thanks to Hillary Elliott for joining us today.
We recorded this episode in the Pacific Northwest, where we're getting ready for our fun knit-along.
From everyone here at knitpicks, thank you for joining us.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual participants. They do not necessarily reflect the opinions or views of the Craft Group LLC or Premier Needle Arts.
All the yarn, tools, and patterns mentioned in this episode, along with all the inspiration a knitter could need, can be found on our website at knitpicks.com.
If you'd like to be part of our podcast, please leave us a message. We'll be checking it regularly and using your calls in later episodes. To leave a voicemail, call 360-334-4847 and record your message. You can also record a voice memo on your phone and email us that audio file at podcast@knitpicks.com.
Like and follow us on your favorite social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube at knitpicks.
Rate and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
Until next time, happy crafting!